Alright, so galvanized steel. In Thailand, they sell steel tubing, square tubing, rectangle tubing, rectangle and square tubing, as well as cylinder tubing in 6-meter pieces, so about 6 yards. And this is pretty cheap here compared to the U.S. for sure. It's like much difference in pricing here for steel, and I'll give you the exacts in a second. But so basically for this 3-inch by 1.5-inch length, it was roughly 600 something baht for a 6-meter length. So that's like maybe $20 for 6 meters. So and it's all galvanized too, and it's 2.3 millimeter thickness, which is equal to 13 gauge if I'm not mistaken for steel. So it's not too thin. It's actually industrial strength, 2.3 millimeter thickness and 13 gauge. And for the other one, it's 2-inch by 1-inch tubing, and that is only about 400 baht. So like 13, 14 bucks for 6-meter length. So divide that by 6 to get the roughly per yards, or by 18 I guess to get the foot price. Yeah, I'll give you the exacts in a second, but I just wanted to share with you. So I'm gonna try to do the framework for this little carport. I'm gonna redo this aluminum framing. It held up, but it's definitely obviously not sturdy as steel would be. So galvanized steel, I won't have to paint it except for the joints that I weld. They'll have to be grinded and buffered and painted to make it weatherproof. But anyway, we'll get to that. Just wanted to share with you initially. Just got the delivery in, and yeah. Right, so I've got the exact price here. So one of the suppliers, the construction material suppliers here in Prachuap, it's Global House, and so they're raw material, and they're not necessarily the cheapest in Thailand, but for this local area and delivery and everything, you pay a little bit of a premium and some tax on it. But yeah, either way, it's before tax, it's about 395 baht for the 2-inch by 1-inch, and again, that's 2.3 millimeter thickness or 13 gauge. And this is all galvanized steel, so it's premium over your black carbon steel. So it's pretty much weatherproof because it's galvanized. And then for the 3-inch by 1.5-inch, the larger one for a 6-meter length, it was 641 baht per 6-meter length. And so here I've ordered, just so before I cut it all up and start to utilize it, I've gotten 6 of the 2x1, and that total was before tax 2,370 baht. And then I'll give you that in dollars on the text, on the subtitles there. And then I bought 4 of the 3 by 1.5-inch 13 gauge again pieces, 6-meter length, so a total of 24 meters of length for the 3 by 1.5. And for those 4 6-meter lengths, or the 24 meters of that, it was 2,564 baht. So a total for all of this galvanized steel right here, which is enough to build, if I were just to build a cube framing, I could probably do it easily 3 by 3 or 3 by 4 meter square framing, just the basic framing. So the total for that was, all this steel here is 4,934 baht. But I'm going to have to cut it, and I don't have, since I'm off grid, I only have battery power tools, and of course I do have a gas generator that I can do some cutting if I need to, but I've got limited gas. So I'm going to have to cut this using what you may call it, a grinder. Yeah, 4-inch grinder. So that's going to take a while to cut, a lot of these pieces. So this was delivered here. Okay, so yeah, obviously there's also tax. So the tax rate for industrial materials here, when you go to a premium place like that, it's something anywhere from like 10 to 15%. Plus I paid them to deliver, so it was about 180 baht. And they're about 5 kilometers away from me. So not that much at all. So the price I gave. So all in total, I'm looking at less than $200 for all of the steel delivered to my place here. And so yeah, compared to somewhere like the US, this steel would probably cost 500%, 5 times at least. If you had a nice industrial supplier, depending on what state you live in, As far as I can tell from online quotes, this kind of steel is 5 to 10 times more in the US, and I think that's linked to the tariffs that they do to try to promote domestic steel, but that still doesn't curb imports according to one article. But anyway, just wanted to point out that the steel in Thailand is much cheaper compared to the US. Okay, just wanted to show you real quick. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. So I'll read it to you in case it's not showing properly. As I cut the steel, I'm just cutting these into 3-meter lengths. I'll do this final one here. But I noticed the writing on the galvanized steel, HSG, whatever that means. And the size of it is 38 millimeters by 75 millimeters by 6,000 millimeters. So basically 6 meters, 600 centimeters lengthwise. And the actual dimensions of the rectangle here are, the tube is 3.8 centimeters by 7.5 centimeters, or as they call it, 3 inches by 1.5 inches. And made in Vietnam. So this galvanized steel, cheap in Thailand as is already, and like I said, I paid a premium. I'm sure it's cheaper in Vietnam as well, but yeah, definitely way cheaper than the US. So I'm wondering if this is an Asia-wide thing versus a North America thing for steel these days. But yeah. Alright, do the final cutting basically using my battery powered grinder, the cutoff wheel, and it's working okay. It's slow, it's not as quick as a cutoff wheel, but that requires 2,000 watt of AC power, which I don't have here, and I got enough power off the grid DC to invert into AC to charge these DC batteries, which doesn't require much, 20, 30 watts, but just time. But yeah, I'm able to cut like one battery. Well, it was able to allowed me to cut many of these two batteries. So I'm on my second battery so far, and I've got backup, so it's workable. But yeah, it's gonna be, now I gotta figure out getting these posts up and welded onto these posts. And anyway, let's get these cut first. Update. Basically, this is the latest status. I had to pour a new footer for this one, but because of the non-perfect alignment, I didn't square up and level up properly when I erected these posts. So I'm just have to kind of compromise, and basically I'll bind these together. I'll weld these two together, bolt these two together. They're far end ones, and then I'll weld some posts, reinforce the posts with steel on the far ends, as well as in the two middle posts, but I'll weld those directly onto this cross beam, as you would call it, assay in Thai, the main assay. But then the post will go up 3 meters, so I want to square it up to the top, but you'll see it as it goes. So we're just going to have to reinforce it as best as possible, make sure it's as close to structurally its structural integrity is not compromised. Obviously, it's a learning experience, but that's the whole point of this. I'm not engineering anything up to standard of the engineer society of know-it-alls or anything like that, but it will do for my learning curve and getting everything properly reinforced. But you'll see as we go.